Hey guys, what's up? So, I'm really excited about this new project I'm working on because it's a story I came up with when I was 18. Even at that time, I thought it was extremely explicit with the sex and the gore. Since then, my mind has elaborated more on what direction I wanted the characters to go. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put myself out there then as a writer. I guess I wasn't confident enough, but now I'm seeing it as a challenge. And it's so daring. Removing the do not disturb sign is actually a mixture of two things that I created: a poem and that story that was never written. I thought the character needed a past, and well, now is the present, so this is it. Removing the do not disturb sign, episode 6. Storytime is actually true. Instead of going to work, Xavier went back to Landon's house. He couldn't get enough. The beginning of this episode is a three-way between Caden, Xavier, and Landon. Even though Caden thinks this is a horrible idea, he's going along with it. He has a secret agenda to kick Xavier off his throne. So while this fuckfest is going on in the bedroom, Caden sees the chemistry and tension between them and decides to go in harder, using rage and aggression to abuse him. After both of them come and Caden pretends to, they all lay back on the bed while Xavier gets a text from Julian. He reads it and it basically says, "After work, come home, I'll make dinner and we can discuss Prince Not So Charming." Landon sees the expression on Xavier's face while Caden is looking at his phone and the text and blurs out that little Xavier is a bit of a liar. Any flaw, any imperfection, any red flag, you better believe he's going to be the one to raise it to the surface. Xavier says it's a little white lie, and he continued the interrogation, asking if he lied a lot, and he laughed, saying, "I'm sure you're not a saint." That completely shut him out. After all, Caden is not a saint. And this is when Caden decided to bring up the story of the town's killer that happened 10 years ago, which Xavier was completely oblivious to since he wasn't living there just yet. Landon rolled his eyes and exited the room. Xavier was confused, and Caden told him that he was just a scaredy cat. So he continued to tell him the bedtime story to Xavier, which we readers or listeners know from episode 1. Basically, no one knows his name, and his identity changes all the time after a killing. The last victim was someone that Landon actually hooked up with, and he was so scared. That's why there's a do not disturb sign on their front door of their house. All of this started to make sense to Xavier, but why didn't Julian ever tell him about this? He was the last kill because FBI, police, and raised all the cars that were at the bottom of the lake of the bodies he had lured to kill on that secluded street. Unfortunately, they had to close the case because they could never find the right suspect. And gays started to protest because they thought the police didn't care it was happening, but that wasn't the case. The killer was just that good at covering his tracks. Xavier was so intrigued by the story, he asked more and more questions, and even Caden was starting to like this side of Xavier. After he was done, they both sat there and wondered if this maniac was still doing this somewhere else to another gay guy at that moment. And of course, at that moment, Landon came into the room, scaring them both. After the scare for the night, they all kissed and made out, about to hit the shower. But Xavier sent Julian a text, basically apologizing that he couldn't make it that night. He had plans with Landon. Stay tuned for the next episode.